Descartes is a global leader in supply chain and logistics software solutions.
With more than 2,000 employees and over 20,000 customers around the world,
helping with every part of the logistics process and supply chain. A growing challenge for global traders is HS codes and tariffs at the moment. Regulations are constantly changing, and incorrect HS codes can actually lead to fines, delays, or even overpayment on duties, which you'd think that customs authorities would like, but when you come back later to chase those duties and get them repaid, it's a lot of paperwork for them, and also it means that they've got less money in the pot than they thought they had originally.
Yes, indeed, and that is where the complexity is for organizations who have large product catalogs, because to keep the classification of the products up to date, manage any new incoming products, rule-based with some level of automation to classify them correctly, that is something that without a solution is hard to manage or almost impossible to manage for organizations. The risk of being non-compliant with regards to sanctions compliance is a big challenge. It damages reputation, it damages your profitability, because once you end having a fine, those fines can be substantial to the size of your organization. And most importantly, it can also mean legal consequences for individuals, directors, owners, etc., who can be prosecuted under the law and be brought to jail.
That's why automated compliance tools are essential, ensuring that you screen transactions, that you manage your export licenses, and really you should be screening all of your business relationships long before you get to the point of a shipment leaving a warehouse. We generally recommend that you start right at the beginning and screen at the very first point of the business relationship. Of course, you should still screen every shipment before it leaves your warehouse, because things might have changed. We're seeing a lot of businesses question, are all the origins they're using as desirable as they used to be? And this could be down to a number of reasons. The carbon footprint, ESG, it could be something like forced labor. As well as this, they're actually looking at what markets they sell into today. Are they covering all the markets that they should be?
So the business requirements for this solution space are quite simple. Organizations need to understand, do I have alternatives for my sourcing? And are there markets that I'm not tapping into yet? And that's where some of the solutions that we can provide are going to be helping in that decision-making process.
If you think of the example of a shipment leaving from the Far East and coming to somewhere like the UK or Central Europe, they might have exported, having done all their necessary checks, making sure that the person they're dealing with is on the up and up and is not sanctioned, ensuring that they got all the right HS code classifications. But in the 3 weeks it takes for that shipment to move, things could have changed, meaning that doing a check once at the point of export is no longer enough.
So having a system in place, a solution in place that helps you continuously on a daily basis verify whether the information is still correct is crucial. The challenge of not having an updated and correct declaration at the point of import would be that, for example, the shipment is stopped at customs. Not only the question of fines, but if you're a forwarder, now your asset is sitting there and is not producing the utilization that you require. So the consequences go in the supply chain far beyond only the question of, did I get it wrong and I maybe now have to pay extra duties that I didn't calculate before. It is quite complex.
Every company wants to lower costs, but most businesses are overpaying on duties, and it's normally because they just don't know which trade agreements they qualify for, or they don't realize what duty suspension options might be available to them.
So yes, indeed, the question of how to optimize your duty load is a critical one for organizations nowadays. And one of the answers to that question is obviously the use of free trade agreements. Now, we all know free trade agreements are not something that are easy to manage. The questions of the rules of origins are important, and the question of whether or not the product qualifies for that trade agreement is a crucial one.
They should also investigate duty suspension, especially if they're moving goods into one customs area and then sending it back out again. Let's use the example of the UK. If someone was to import something from, say, the Far East into the UK only to sell it to a buyer in the EU, they may end up paying duty twice. This can be avoided if they look into duty suspension options, such as ETSFs, or customs or excise warehouses.
Staying competitive in today's world as a participant in the supply chain and in global trade is quite a challenge. That's why solutions are necessary. Up-to-date information, automation, and the right business processes supported are capabilities that we can bring to the table. As Descartes, that is our strength, that has been the strength of our activities over the last multiple decades, and that's where we are here.